The siren wasn't even loud. It was just a short burst, the kind firefighters use when they're pulling into a tight residential street and need cars to clear the way. I remember thinking nothing of it as I stepped out of my truck and grabbed my gear. I was off duty, but still in uniform, heading back to my place after a long overnight shift. That's when I heard a woman yelling before I even reached my driveway. "You can't park that here." I turned and saw her marching toward me, phone already in her hand, HOA badge swinging from a lanyard like it gave her superpowers. She wasn't asking a question. She wasn't confused. She was angry that a fire department vehicle was sitting near her precious curb. Before I get into what happened next, make sure you like and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily, because this one goes from zero to unbelievable in about 5 minutes. And trust me, you don't want to miss how fast karma shows up. I calmly told her I was a firefighter, that I lived there, and that the truck was parked legally. She cut me off mid-sentence, said HOA rules were stricter than city rules, said emergency vehicles didn't get special treatment unless there was an active emergency. She actually used air quotes when she said emergency. I tried again, slower this time, explained that fire department vehicles are exempt from HOA parking restrictions, and that even if they weren't, I was unloading gear and would be gone in a minute. She laughed, a sharp, smug laugh. Then she said the words that kicked everything off. "Fine. If you won't move it, I'll call 911 and report you." I honestly thought she was bluffing. She wasn't. She stepped back, dialed, and loudly told the dispatcher that there was a man impersonating a firefighter, illegally parking a fire truck in a residential HOA community and refusing to comply. I stood there, stunned, while she nodded along to the dispatcher like she was proud of herself. Neighbors started coming out, curtains moved, phones came up, and there I was in full department-issued uniform, badge visible, truck clearly marked, being accused of faking my own job. When she hung up, she crossed her arms and smiled. "They'll be here any minute," she said. "Let's see how this goes for you." At that point, I didn't argue anymore. I didn't raise my voice. I just leaned against my truck and waited, because once someone lies to 911, this stops being an HOA issue real fast. The first patrol car arrived in under 3 minutes, then another. Then, to Karen's visible confusion, a fire department supervisor vehicle pulled in behind them. The officer asked who made the call. Karen practically skipped forward. "That's him," she said, pointing at me. "He's pretending to be a firefighter and threatening the neighborhood." The officer looked at me, looked at my uniform, looked at the truck, then looked back at her. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "do you understand that making a false emergency call is a crime?" Her smile faded just a little. The fire captain stepped out of his vehicle and walked straight toward me. He didn't ask who I was. He already knew. He shook my hand and asked if I was okay. Karen's face went white. What she didn't know yet was that the 911 call had been recorded. Every word, every accusation, and calling 911 on a firefighter, in uniform, parked legally, doesn't end the way she thought it would. The officer didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He asked Karen to step aside while he spoke with me and the fire captain. I could already see the confidence draining out of her face as she realized this wasn't going the direction she planned. The captain explained that I was a fully certified firefighter, that the truck was department issued, and that I had just finished an overnight shift. He also made it clear that even if I hadn't lived there, emergency vehicles are allowed to park as needed under city ordinance. Karen tried to interrupt. She said HOA rules were stricter. She said residents had complained. She said she was just doing her job. The officer stopped her. He told her that HOA rules do not override city law, state law, or emergency services. Then he asked for her ID. That's when things really started to unravel. While another officer ran her information, the first officer requested the 911 call recording from dispatch. They played it back right there on a small speaker. Everyone could hear it. Neighbors, HOA board members who had shown up late, even Karen herself. Her voice came through loud and clear. She had said I was impersonating a firefighter. She had said the truck was fake. She had said I was refusing lawful orders. None of it was true. The officer paused the recording and looked at her. "Ma'am," he said, "you knowingly made a false emergency report. That's a misdemeanor." Karen started backpedaling. She said she assumed. She said she felt threatened. She said she thought it was safer to call than not. The officer explained that 911 is not a complaint line, and it's not an HOA enforcement tool. He told her that while she was tying up emergency resources, real calls were waiting. That hit the crowd hard. One of the neighbors spoke up and said his wife was a nurse. Another said their son was a volunteer firefighter. People started murmuring. The tone changed fast. The HOA president finally arrived and tried to calm things down. He asked if this could be handled internally. The captain shut that down immediately. "This isn't an HOA matter," he said. "This is a misuse of emergency services." Karen was given a citation on the spot for false reporting. She was told further charges were possible pending review by the city attorney. She started crying loudly, saying she didn't mean it, saying she was under stress, saying the HOA puts too much pressure on her. No one stepped in to defend her. The officer then asked her to step away from the vehicle and stop engaging with me. He made it clear that any further interference could result in additional charges. As the police wrapped up, the captain pulled me aside and told me something I didn't expect. Because of the false report involving emergency services, the city would be sending a formal notice to the HOA. They would be reviewing whether HOA members needed additional training on interacting with first responders. Karen overheard that part, and for the first time she looked genuinely scared. The officers left. The fire department left. The crowd slowly dispersed. Karen stayed behind, sitting on the curb, staring at her phone like it had betrayed her. But this wasn't over, because the HOA still had a meeting scheduled that evening. That evening, the HOA meeting room was more crowded than I had ever seen it. People who never showed up were suddenly there early, sitting up front, whispering, waiting. The energy was tense, like everyone knew something important was about to happen. Karen sat alone on one side of the room. No badge this time, no clipboard, no phone out recording people. She looked smaller somehow, like the confidence she usually carried had been drained out of her earlier that day. The HOA president opened the meeting and tried to stick to the agenda, but it didn't work. Within minutes, a resident raised their hand and asked about the police and fire department response that afternoon. Another asked why 911 was being used for parking disputes. Someone else asked if the HOA was now allowed to accuse residents of crimes. The president sighed and admitted the city had already contacted management. A formal notice had been sent regarding the misuse of emergency services by an HOA representative. He said the board had been advised to take the matter seriously. That's when Karen stood up. She tried to explain herself. She said she felt overwhelmed. She said residents constantly pressured her to enforce rules. She said she believed the truck didn't belong there, and that she was just trying to keep the neighborhood safe. No one interrupted her. They didn't need to. When she finished, the president calmly read part of the city's notice out loud. It stated that falsely reporting emergency situations, especially involving first responders, creates public safety risks and exposes organizations to liability. It also stated that if HOA representatives are found encouraging or supporting such behavior, the HOA itself could face penalties. The room went silent. Then one of the board members asked Karen a simple question. Why didn't you call HOA management first? She didn't answer. Another resident stood up and said this wasn't the first time Karen had escalated things unnecessarily. Someone else mentioned previous confrontations with delivery drivers. Another talked about threatening emails over trash cans and parking. The stories kept coming. Karen tried to respond, but the president gently asked her to sit down. He then announced that effective immediately, Karen was being removed from any enforcement-related duties pending a formal review. Her access to HOA systems, email lists, and authority to issue warnings or fines was suspended. Karen started crying again, this time quieter, more real, but the meeting wasn't over. The president went on to say the HOA would be implementing new rules. Any interaction with police or emergency services would now require approval from management unless there was an actual emergency. HOA members would receive mandatory training on how to interact with first responders. And most importantly, HOA representatives were prohibited from confronting residents alone. That last part got a few nods of approval. Karen stood up one more time. Her voice was shaky. She said she felt attacked. She said she was being made an example of. And someone near the back said, calmly but firmly, "You made yourself the example." No one argued with that. Karen left before the meeting ended. Over the next few weeks, things changed. A lot. The city attorney reviewed the case. Karen wasn't arrested, but the citation stood. She was required to attend a misuse of emergency services education program and pay a fine. The HOA's insurance carrier also got involved, and that alone caused panic among the board. Karen officially resigned shortly after. No farewell email. No explanation. One day her name was on the HOA website, the next day it was gone. I still see her sometimes. She keeps her head down now. No badge, no confrontations, no shouting across the street. She parks legally. She avoids eye contact. As for me, life went back to normal. I park my truck where it's allowed. I come home after long shifts without being harassed. And every once in a while, a neighbor thanks me quietly for standing my ground. That's the thing about calling 911. It's not a weapon. It's not leverage. And it's definitely not an HOA tool. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you like and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily for more real-life entitlement stories that end in consequences. Drop a comment if you've ever seen someone abuse emergency services. And share this with anyone who thinks rules only apply to other people. Because sometimes, one phone call is all it takes to reveal exactly who someone really is.